Immortality, psychic power, and impossible beauty. These were the gifts chosen to create the perfect species. But the old ones accidentally added an extra ingredient to the concoction. Pride. Thus you, an Eldar, was born. You weren't raised, you weren't taught, you were made for war. The first thing you ever held wasn't a parent's hand, it was a weapon. And the first thing you ever saw? Metal skeletons marching across the stars, killing everything that breathed. No one sat you down for a history lesson. You learned from whatever your sergeant screamed in your ear while ducking plasma fire. The metal skeletons used to be Necrontyr. Back then, they were living beings. And long story short, they had cancer, asked old ones for help. They said no, so the Necrontyr made a deal with the Catan, star-eating god things, and traded souls for immortality to get revenge on the old ones. Flesh for metal. Now, they're Necrons. And your job is simple. Kill them before they kill you. You fight in webway tunnels on ash worlds across stars so bright the air burns. The details blur together, green lightning stripping flesh from bone, friends turning to dust in an instant, retreat orders that always come too late. You fight for years. Time doesn't matter when the enemy never tires. The only constant is that tomorrow, there will always be more Necrons. Between campaigns, you feel it. The weight of something greater pressing on your soul. Whispers of Cain, the war god, warmth of Isha, the mother, echoes of others. Not faith, not stories, real. The emotions of your people leak into the warp and stir the gods awake, and every time you fight, those gods grow stronger. Then reality starts tearing. Psychers push too far, and holes rip open in the air. From them crawl things with no names. Enslavers. Warp parasites, they grab anything with a soul and hollow it out into a puppet. Whole sectors go dark overnight. The old ones, your creators, were supposed to have answers. Masters of all the psychic power, but their voices grow faint. Then silent, then gone. And then the Necrons turn on the Catan, realizing they'd been scammed. At least better late than never, right? No last stand, no final order, just silence. One campaign, they're everywhere. The next, the fields are empty. Patrols report tomb-like structures sealing themselves. Rumors spread that the Necrons crawled underground to sleep. Not dead, not gone, just waiting. So, here you are, the Eldari, standing in the ruins with weapons still in hand. Well, not entirely ruins. The old ones left one thing, the webway. A clean, impossible highway through unreality. No storms, no demons, just endless tunnels stretching everywhere. You've got the keys, no instructions, and an entire galaxy waiting to see what you'll do with it. So yeah, war's over. The metal skeletons went to bed, the old ones ghosted, and suddenly you're standing here with a weapon in your hand, and no one left to point it at. Command doesn't disband you, they just reassign. 1 week you're clearing Necron kill tunnels, the next you're standing guard while engineers grow entire cities out of psychic crystal. You don't even get training, just point your gun that way. If something twitches, shoot it. At first, it feels like a break. No screaming plasma fire, no enslavers hollowing out your squad mates, just standing around while architects play God. But then decades pass, centuries. You watch skyscrapers sprout like weeds, hear poets arguing about how to bend the laws of physics for aesthetic reasons. And yeah, it's impressive, but you're bored out of your immortal skull. And not the dramatic kind of boredom. The slow, creeping kind where your brain has too many tabs open and half of them are frozen, which is relatable because sometimes even your hobbies start to feel like work. Which brings us to today's sponsor, Wand. Wand is a free desktop app for single-player PC games that lets you customize how you experience the game so you can skip the slow, repetitive parts and stay in the parts you actually enjoy. Download it once, launch your game, hit Alt and W, and Wand overlays right there. No alt-tabbing, no tutorials. Wand lets you adjust things like stamina drain, resource farming, pacing, difficulty tuning, or test new builds instantly without restarting your playthrough. So let's take Elden Ring. Say you've been running a pure strength build for 40 hours and suddenly your brain goes, what if Wizard? Normally that's hours of farming and grinding. With Wand, you can adjust your stats directly and test the magic playstyle immediately without restarting your character or committing your next 5 evenings. You could also use freeze enemy positions to aura farm near enemies. And Wand's guidance tools help you find quests, locations, or materials without spoilers and without watching a 12-minute definitive guide. It works with over 3,500 single-player titles, and setup is literally download, click, play normally. Because realistically, most of us don't have unlimited time. If you've got 1 hour to game before sleep to win the boss fight, you deserve to spend that hour doing the cool part, not gathering mushrooms or dying to the same boss for the 89th time. So, if you want to actually enjoy the part of the game you came for, use my link wand.gg/gamemp4 to download Wand for free. You can find it in the description and pinned comment. And from November 24th to December 1st, Wand is offering 25% off their annual Pro subscription. This is the lowest price they offer all year and the best time to unlock the full Wand experience. Use the promo code WANDBF25. Now back to the video. No one dies unless they trip over stairs. Crime doesn't exist. You write incident reports for things like glitched cleaning drone, 3 pages, in triplicate. You start volunteering for cultural assignments, which is code for babysitting artists while they see how many new ways exist to fry their own brains. First, it's symphonies that rewrite your neurons, the sculptures that whisper back, then parties. Centuries-long parties where people forget how to stop. You don't go because you want to, you go because routine duty is worse, and the longer you stay, the harder it is to pull yourself out. Some of your fellow soldiers come back different. Eyes too bright, voices too hungry, they keep signing up for extended immersion shifts. You tell yourself it's research, advanced cultural development, the perfect society exploring every sensation possible. But every night on watch, while you're standing outside another chamber vibrating with noises you don't have words for, you remember what the war in heaven taught you. Your people's emotions don't just vanish, they leak into the warp. They echo, they build things, gods. And if your entire species is feeling the same thing, what kind of god are you building now? The Farseers, whose job is literally see bad things coming, start screaming about birthing gods, then collapse, eyes bleeding, babbling about hungry deities, and the end of everything. That's your evacuation notice. Your craft world flees into the webway, an interdimensional subway that keeps demons out, and honestly, good call, because 3 months later, while you're safely tucked in the interdimensional subway sharing a ration pack with your buddy, the universe has its biggest temper tantrum in 60 million years. Through the tunnel walls, you can see the warp. And it's screaming, purple screaming fire, which is apparently what happens when an entire species accidentally gives birth to a god through collective self-indulgence. Slaanesh, also known as She Who Thirsts. Your people's greatest achievement and worst nightmare rolled into one cosmically horrifying package. You turn to your buddy and see his eyes going wide, then empty. Soul slurped. 1 second he's complaining about ration bars, the next he's gone. The Farseer on duty tells you to dispose of the body and regulate your emotional output. Cool, great, just stop feeling things while your entire civilization collapses and your friends vanish mid-sentence. No problem. Later, when the shockwave fades, the truth comes out. All your gods are gone, swallowed whole. Only Segorok, the laughing god, escaped by hiding in the webway with you. Trillions of souls vanish. Entire planets cave in. Your empire, your perfect society pops like it never mattered. Your core worlds become the Eye of Terror, a permanent warp storm where demons play house in the ruins of your greatest cities. And that's when you feel it for the first time. Soul thirst. A constant suction in your chest, pulling toward the newborn god. From now on, every day's a fight not to get drained into Slaanesh's maw. Your craft world's artisans start working overtime, crafting spirit stones, psychic gems bonded to your soul at birth to catch it before Slaanesh can slurp it up. When you die, the stone, assuming it's still on you and intact, captures your essence, then gets plugged into the infinity circuit. Basically a psychic nursing home where dead relatives give unsolicited advice forever. But hey, it beats getting eaten by She Who Thirsts. Your empire explodes. You see refugees flooding the webway, rumors that whole craft worlds went silent overnight, and the knowing truth that Slaanesh is still hungry. Time to choose your survival strategy. Some Eldari throw themselves into the path system. One life, one obsession. Warrior, seer, artisan, and stick to it completely. No indulgence, no variety, no fun. Because if you let yourself feel too much, she hears you cross the warp like a dinner bell ringing. Better to be a boring, hyper-focused librarian than a tasty, complex soul snack. It works, mostly, until someone on the path of the artisan gets a little too creative with their sculpture and wakes up screaming about colors that don't exist. Or a warrior gets a little too excited in battle, and whoops, there goes another soul. You watch it happen again and again. Your friend, an aspect warrior, 2 centuries on the path of the striking scorpion, perfect discipline. Then one day she wins a duel and feels pride for half a second too long. Gone. Turns out she forgot the most important rule. Always keep your soul stone on you, and you realize the path system doesn't prevent it, it just makes the wait longer. Some Eldari joined the Harlequins, following Segorok and waiting for Ranadandra, the final battle where everyone dies but at least takes Slanesh with them. That's their plan. Cosmic murder-suicide. Very optimistic. Others crawl into the webway's deepest tunnels and build Kamara, a nightmare city where they discover you can counteract soul thirst by absorbing the pain and suffering of others. Not finding people who happen to be suffering, making them suffer. It's literal vampirism, except instead of blood, you're draining the life force that leaks out of agony. So you look at your options. Become a space monk following strict emotional rules that prevent you from ever rebuilding what you lost. Join the cosmic clowns banking everything on a prophetic doomsday battle. Or become a spiritual vampire who stays strong by feeding on others. The choice is obvious. Not because you're evil, but because you still remember what you're supposed to be building. The perfect society, the galactic empire, the dream the old ones died for. So you follow the path of the vampires in Kamara. At least that way you won't have to have 20 reminder notes to always keep your spirit stone on you. Kamara doesn't just exist in the webway's deepest tunnels, it feels. The Dark City grows like a cancer through abandoned passages, each district more twisted than the last, but you're not here for the architecture. You're here to stay strong enough to rebuild what you lost. So you join a cabal, basically an organized crime syndicate, except the product is misery. Cabals compete over who can raid the cleanest, terrorize the most, and bring back the best haul of slaves. Fail, and you don't retire. You end up as someone's test subject. That's where the homunculi come in. They're the city's flesh sculptors, surgeons who treat bodies like clay. They can stitch you back together after raids, grow new limbs, even resurrect you from a corpse. Useful in a place where dying on the job is practically a guarantee. Your first raid is against an Imperial frontier world. Humans who've never seen Eldari technology. They die confused, which somehow makes it worse, but their suffering keeps your soul from getting slurped by she who thirsts, so you do it again. And again. Is it moral? No. Does it work? Absolutely. You've watched Drukhari who tried to quit. Tried to go clean. Lasted maybe a month before thirst drove them mad, and they either resumed raiding or simply stopped existing. Their souls got claimed mid-hallucination, screaming. You tell yourself this isn't forever. You're not doing this because you enjoy it. You're doing it because it's necessary. At least this way you've got a chance to stick around long enough to rebuild what your people lost. Some days you almost believe it. Other days you wonder if you're gaslighting yourself. And when you look at the Eye of Terror, at your ruined core worlds, demon pits hiding the crone swords, ancient Eldari relics no one dares to touch. Not yet. But one day, someone will, and when that day comes, you intend to be ready. Time bends strangely in Kamarag. You'll spend decades perfecting one scream, step back into real space, and realize a single day ticked by. The wider galaxy becomes a newsfeed you check through slave testimonies and raid reports. You watch it all fall apart. The Emperor of Humanity is betrayed by half his sons, stapled to a golden life support chair, screaming for 10,000 years straight. You raid a mining colony. The Imperium fractures into civil war. You raid another mining colony. Oryx nearly overrun Terra. You raid a mining colony. Civil wars, more despair, fewer defenses. Chaos eruptions like the Gothic War. You raid while everyone's too busy exploding to notice. You get a commendation for perfect attendance. It's not that you don't care, it's that caring is expensive and you're on a budget. But sometimes survival feels empty. Tyranids hit Liandon, and the webway lights up with Eldari screams. You should feel satisfaction. Instead, you feel empty. These are your people dying, the last survivors of the empire you built, devoured while you hide. And when the Necrons wake up, remember them? Cabals try raiding them once. Keyword, once. They don't come back. Your carefully hoarded power feels like toys compared to that. And through it all, whispers spread. Harlequins hinting about a new god, craft worlders clutching spirit stones like lifeboats. Yned, they say, a god of death sleeping inside the warp, waiting to rise. You laugh it off. You've heard the end is near too many times to care, but deep down, the part of you that remembers building perfect cities wonders, what if someone else really does have a plan? You push it away. There are always more raids, more screams to harvest, more strength to pile up for a future that never seems to arrive. The question you don't ask yourself is, how much strength is enough? And when will it finally be enough for you to try again? Then the galaxy cracks in half. The Great Rift opens, a warp storm so massive it splits reality from the Eye of Terror all the way south. Even the webway starts collapsing. And Kamara, the Dark City, the one place you thought was untouchable, gets invaded. Demons in your streets. Slaaneshi warbands hunting Drukhari through their own districts. Whole blocks vanish overnight. They say Vect himself slammed the gates shut. The same guy who clawed his way up from slave to overlord. Hunters become the hunted, and suddenly you're in a very personal horror movie. And for the first time since the fall, you're scared. Not just for yourself, for the plan. 10,000 years of survival, and suddenly even your fortress is on fire. The craft worlds fare worse. Everyone's backup plan just expired simultaneously. That's when she shows up. Yvraine, ex-gladiator, recently dead, currently walking around because she came back carrying a piece of God. She resurrects people mid-sentence. She gets craft worlders and Drukhari in the same room without immediate stabbings. And you realize, things are about to get really weird. Yvraine's message? Ynid. Ynid is the Eldari's mythical last god, the one prophesied to form from every Eldari soul hiding in spirit stones and infinity circuits. Supposed to wake up at the literal end of your species just in time to kill Slaanesh. Basically the apocalypse nuke option. Not the most cheerful salvation story, but Yvraine says no, he's stirring early. Thanks to her resurrection, he doesn't need every Eldari to die first. He just needs the Crone Swords to finish his awakening, and suddenly you've got a god who can fight Slaanesh on your side. And when Ynid needs an avatar, she becomes Incarni. Imagine the Grim Reaper doing guest appearances through your friend's body. Her pitch is simple. Join us, unite all Eldari, wake the god of endings, kill Slaanesh forever. You're in the back, watching Drukhari actually nodding along. Hope in Kamarag. If you weren't watching it, you wouldn't believe it. And here's the thing. You've kept yourself emotionally half dead just to stay alive, and you're exhausted. Not enough to buy a Death God starter pitch at face value, but enough to want an ending. Because that's what she's really offering. Not salvation, conclusion. Either it works and the exile finally ends, or it doesn't, and you get to stop pretending the cycle of raids and ration bars is a life worth living, and you go out swinging instead of withering. You realize this is what you've been waiting for. The moment you literally drained lives for. 10,000 years of perfect attendance, and your shift is finally ending. So when Yvraine finishes her pitch, you don't hang back, you step forward, offer the handshake, she takes it, and skadoosh. I'm kidding. But that's it. That's the big Marvel Assemble moment. After all the wars, all the gods, all the running, you're standing in Kamarag, about to join a Death God startup. Roll credits. And hey, if you made it all the way through this, respect. If you want more suffering, tragedy, questionable life choices, and emotional damage disguised as lore, there's another video waiting for you right here on the screen. Seriously, click it. Don't leave me here talking to myself. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.